Hello everyone. So my name is Yvan, and I will speak about SAP. So one slide with disclaimer that just to say that no SAP system was badly treated during the institution. One slide about me. So like I said, my name is Yvan. I work for Onasys. This is a security company dedicated to ERP security, and my daily work is to find vulnerability. I already found few vulnerabilities these last years, and 100% of what I find are in SAP product. Okay, this is the agenda for today. I will try to speak what is the SAP focused world and where you can find it in your SAP landscape. Then quickly what we find on it. We will speak about few vulnerability. This is vulnerability we find in the team. This is not vulnerability in the SAP focused world, but you will see it will be linked more or less. One part about what kind of patch and what you can apply, and the cooking part. Okay, does anyone did not know what is SAP? Raise your hand. Okay, go to Google, sap.com, and read the website. So, good. Everyone knows, so I will not spend too much time on what is SAP, and of course, basically SAP runs the world, and we need to take care of it. Okay, I try to represent more or less how SAP landscape or SAP environment could be very, not very complicated, but very heterogeneous. So just imagine that you are a company with many SAP systems. It's good to know that SAP works on a lot of OS, so you can find Windows, Linux, Unix, etc., etc. More or less, I will be very quick. SAP work with a basis layer. So when you speak about SAP system, you have what we call a SAP NetWeaver. There are two versions of the SAP NetWeaver, the stack ABAP and the stack Java. Of course, you can have also the dual stack, both of them. So we can represent it like that, like an SAP system. It's a SAP NetWeaver stack with something on top of this stack. And what you can find top of this stack, this is the SAP project itself. Like you will find an ERP system, CAOM, portal, etc., etc. So we can represent it like that. Like I put few examples. Some of the system, it's normal, it could be connected to internet. For example, the portal. This is usual. And I only show for example, the production system, because behind this system, you can imagine that you have a development system, quality, integration, pre-production, etc., etc. So very quickly understand that SAP administrators need to deal with a lot of SAP systems. So when they need to administrate an SAP system, it will be very complicated because the landscape is huge. So very quickly, SAP introduced some particular system, what we like to call it technical system because there are no business into it. I just forget to launch my timer. And so this is kind of system dedicated for administrators to administrate all of the SAP systems. So this is very useful. So instead of connecting our own system to perform some administration activity, the administrators, the SAP administrators, only connect to this one. So when we speak about this kind of system, of course, we speak about the SAP Solution Manager. So SAP Solution Manager, I tried to find the date of the release, but I didn't find it. It's very old now. But the end of the date is 27, so this is only 5 years. This is not so long. And we can represent the SAP Solution Manager like that. So just imagine that the SAP Solution Manager, this kind of system connected everywhere on other systems with high privilege. So this is why we take a look on it 2 years ago, 2 years ago, because we just imagined, hey, if we compromise the SAP Solution Manager, maybe you can jump on all of the SAP systems with high privilege. And this is what we find. So 2 years ago, we worked with part 2 on it. We find more or less to help vulnerability. So basically, without authentication, we can attack the SAP social manager, and we are able to execute OS command on a whole system connected to the SAP social manager. And we find LP to root to. So, okay, during this time when we work on SAP social manager, SAP released a new product, the name is SAP Focused Web. So it was released in 2020, and more or less we can represent it also like that, like it's again a technical system normally dedicated to the SAP administrator, and we think, hey, maybe after the SAP Solution Manager, it would be a good idea to take a look at the SAP Focused Web too. So this is our target, basically. First of all, when you start on it really well, it's a very young product. There are only few versions, and no vulnerability was fine, or no CV or SSL, they said it's SAP security ops. So we take a look on the website, and we understand that this is a part of the website that SAP Focused Web is a spin-off of the SAP Solution Manager. So again, for us, as an attacker point of view, we can say, okay, maybe if you compromise the SAP Focused Web, we can jump very easy to other SAP systems. And also there are very particular proven built-in security. So when I send this to my boss, he said, okay, let's take a look at this famous security built-in. So we decided to take a look at it. We installed our lab, we connected several systems, etc. So let's start to try to understand how it works. So this is how it looks like. Very usual. We already work on the SAP Solution Manager. It was very close to same, more or less. So you have access to a lot of to a menu, and you can perform a lot of action, and basically you can interact with the managed system very easily. You can misfire, you can retrieve some information, you can enable the monitoring, etc., etc. And also we understand that it's like a SAP Solution Manager, but very, very much simpler. Like there are the stack Java is not here anymore, so no Java stuff, no the little harder BW, CRM, etc. There are no RSC communication, so this is the communication between SAP to SAP, and there are nothing like that. No, the P4 is not present. So basically the attack surface is very small. It's like only more or less when we activate all the services, you have a bit more than 100 entries. For an SAP system, 100 entries is not a lot. And so, okay, so we start looking on it, and we didn't find any specific source services like we find in SAP Solution Manager. We find a lot of things, etc., etc. And basically everything was authenticated. So pretty hard. We spent like I don't remember, like 2 or 3 weeks to find nothing. And so the first blood was a little success, but you need to be authenticated, and the requests are in post. So not very sexy. I remember a meeting with my boss when I present, hey, I found that. He said, yes, and that's all. After a few moments, I found another instances. Just very quickly, this one is not dedicated to SAP Focused Web. It's in the SAP Fiori. So SAP Fiori is HTML5 GUI from SAP. So this is basically present on the whole SAP system, at least all S4HANA. But okay, another success into this one, and that's all. After 1 month of work, I didn't find any very interesting vulnerability. A few of them more, but not very interesting. So I was afraid that maybe we can find nothing, maybe, but I'm here, so of course I found something. So we decided to, okay, just stop looking directly on the SAP Focused Web, and maybe we decided to look at how the SAP communicate with other SAP systems. So I bring back my picture. I will just simplify it a little because we don't need all this information. And we read from the documentation, and also the basis team told us, you need to install an agent. So the name is Simple Diagnostic Agent. You need to install an agent on whole hosts where you want to manage SAP system, SAP target. So you have the SAP server, and you must install this agent everywhere in your landscape if you want to use the SAP server. Okay, so let's zoom in only on two systems to again simplify the picture. And now we just forget to attack the SAP server and we take a look on the SDA, the SQL Diagnostic Agent. First of all, what we find is the location of the installation of this agent is directly in the particular directory. The directory is /user/SAP host control. And it's quite interesting. Just a few slides, one slide about the host control. The host control is a part of the SAP system. It's an important component. And it's present on all SAP system, and basically the purpose of the host control is to perform some what is called lifecycle task in the SAP system. You can start the SAP system, stop, execute OS command, monitoring the database, etc., etc. So this is installed by default, and this is mandatory to have it, and of course this is OS dependent. It's work on Windows, Linux, etc. It's actually sent on two ports. 1128 for HTTP and 1128 for HTTPS, and you can communicate with some few web services. And quite, 99% of the web services are authenticated. Not all, but the most interesting one. Okay, this is just a few words about the host control. We'll be back on it later. So, about the agents, so this is an example of, not an example, but this is the output of the installation directory where you can find log file, configuration file, etc., etc. So this is very classical. And we find a lot of file, the name is .properties. And so we find this file, the default .properties, it looks like a global configuration for our agent. So we find it in this path, so in default agent configuration, you have one directory by application handled by this agent. And in this directory, you can find the default property, where you can find the memory management or stuff like that. But also we find other property file, it's very more interesting. The name is custom.properties and secure.properties. So it's not exactly the same path, so you need to go to the default and then configuration, and you have one directory by application, and on each directory you can find one custom.properties and one secure.properties. So there are more or less 50 configuration files. And this is an example of what you can find in the custom properties. So for example, in the global configuration, you can find this. So this is the login, so you can find the port, etc., the host name for the connection to, in this example, to PRD. So it's a connection to the SAP system in the same place, in the same server of the agent. Okay? And also, in other custom property, you can find a user to connect to the SAP server. But of course, there are no passwords in this custom property file, and everything is encrypted. It's in plain text. What is encrypted? It's in secure properties. So again, there are many files, and you can spot already the algorithm used by default. So we speak about PB with MD5 and DNS. So it's good for me because I'm not a crypto guy, so I think I can deal with this kind of very old encryption. And the thing is there are some parameters followed by module ID, and also you can recognize some base64 encoded. So, and in this base64 encoded, this is encrypted data. So we have the algorithm, we have some encrypted data, and also we have the key. In all such simple diagnostication, you can find a particular file, the name is master key, master password, So the master password is it's a file who handles the key to decrypt the configuration file. Of course, only SAP ADM user can read this file, and SAP ADM user is a huge SAP user with high privileges. So if you achieve to do something as SAP ADM, you can do a lot of things in the system. So high privilege user, only this high privilege user can handle this file. So we study quickly how the encryption is done. The number of iterations to calculate the derivative key was not standard, so we brute force it and we found it's 10, etc., etc. Also, the format in secure.properties was something like that. So it is parent name followed by module ID, followed by the string \e, followed by ID, the source, and at the end the encrypted data. So something like that. So for this example, it means the password for this user, we haven't the user, but the password is the last encoded part. So we decrypt, basically we decrypt the SDR configuration. We grab like 11 credentials, so login, password, URL, hostname, port, everything we want to the SAP system itself, the SAP system on the same server, but also to the SAP server. So basically this is a golden line, but we were SAP ADM in the system to grab this file. And this is where we find something. So back to the communication. So what we understand very quickly is the SAP network to communicate with the SDR. The SDA is something like that. So the SDA, the agent, listen on the port 3005 only on the localhost interfaces. You can't reach this port remotely. And so the host control is here just as a front end. So you from the SAP server you can send the request to the host control in the port 1129. And this is very good for this is also good because I think SAP do that to avoid to create another service to avoid your firewall and stuff like that. The host control is already well-known services, so it's good to install the agent. You do nothing, and the host control is used, and this is very probably why it's used like that. So, and the host control forward the request to the SDA. So we sniff everywhere at the enter, what's happened, what's coming to the SDA, etc., etc. And this is an example. So this is just a ping, like when you want to ping an agent. So this kind of URL is sent, and on the top and on the bottom, this is what the SDA received. Maybe you can post something. On the top, there are the authorization leader, and on the bottom, there are no authorization killer. So yes, we made some tests. It means anyone who can request locally and communicate with the port 3005 can interact with the agent. And by interact, we mean it's possible to ask, to request to the agent to do something. This something is done as SAP ADM user. So you can list file, you can list directory, you can grab the configuration, you can change the configuration, you can kill, stop the agent, you can do basically everything. So, yeah, just patch, of course. I just think it was a demo type, but no. It was patch, and I put the timestamp this time because the SAP patch is a bit, 32 days. So this is very, very good. This is the first time that it was patched so quickly, so this is good. And demo type. This is a Windows, so we have the where's the mouse? Okay. Demo. Hope it's work. ESC. Something in Genuer. Alright, okay, on the top I'm connected as user Yvan in the SAP host, so I have no particular right. I try to display the master password. Of course, it's not working because only SAP can do that. So I will issue a request directly on the port 3005 and to ask to display the file. And I got an error like, hey, no, this kind of file is not whitelisted in the engine. So of course, I can grab the configuration of this engine, and as you can see, the file list have a lot of whitelist kind of extension you can grab. And you can modify this configuration. This is done like that. So I just display again, and now as you can see there are new file list 2, and the content of this file list is nothing. It's meaning you can display any kind of file. And as you can see, I can display the master password file. So I will put the master password file to a file. Master password, very you can issue another command to download the agent configuration into a zip file. So like that, you can grab all the property file. So that's it. And I will just transfer the zip file of the master password key in my laptop just because I need Python 3 and I have Python 3 on the subsystem. So you unzip the configuration. As you can see, you have all the property file and a lot of things. Then I will use a little Python script to use the master password to decrypt the configuration file, and I create a loop to look in all the configuration to find everything. So as you can see now, you can have everything from the configuration file. A lot of credential, high privileges, etc. etc. Yeah. Okay. All right. This is what we find in the SAP focused world. But the thing is okay, but you need to have access, at least a little access, but you need to have access to a subsystem to decrypt the API. And what we understand is, so I bring back my beautiful picture and I put something. So now on whole the system, I have the agent, the SDR agent is installed everywhere. So it means the security of the SAP focused world pretty good when we try to attack it directly. The security of the SAP focused depends on the security on whole of the SAP system. Because if you find one vulnerability in one system, you will probably be able to decrypt the SDA and access to the SAP focused world, then access everywhere. So the surface attack from a little application is now huge because the attack surfaces is all the landscape. So I will just show you 4 vulnerabilities. This is basically the 4 big vulnerabilities we find in the last couple of years. And it's not relative to the SAP focused world, but this is kind of vulnerability. It's just to show you the variety, how heterogeneous is the vulnerability you can find on SAP. And when we say, okay, the attack surface is the whole landscape, it means all the vulnerability, critical vulnerability can be used to decrypt the SDA. So the first one is it's this one. This is the missing notification to access to a particular web services in the SAP Genuer Java. So if I bring back my picture, so the vulnerable component is the SAP Genuer Java. So whole SAP system who has this SAP Genuer Java as a basis layer could be vulnerable to this one. So yeah, the name is recon. You can speak about the name, but yeah. It was found by Pablo, and what Pablo finds, it's possible to access to particular web services, the CTC web services SAP. And okay, you can access to this web services. It didn't quickly understand what's going on, but after a few tests, we understand that okay, this web service site basically this is the backend of what you can have. So just imagine you have connected as an administrator. This is the SAP Java dashboard. Go to configuration scenario and you can select what is called configuration wizard. And in this configuration wizard, you can select scenario and it executes several tasks. Like you can create user, you can perform some post-installation tasks and stuff like that. So when you execute it, you have something like a UID like that. And what we understand is, okay, this web service is accessible without any authentication, and we can execute this task as a high privilege user. And so this is an example of what you can send to the web service side. So on the top left and on the top right, you receive the same ID like hey, the task is ongoing. So interesting thing, it's you need to provide a path, and the path is just something go to a particular file in the CPOC, and the CPOC is more or less a definition, a configuration file for a bunch of tasks, more or less. So you find that there are more than 500 CPOC in the system by default. So it means what? Remotely, with authentication, you can request to execute some particular CPOC, and this is done by high privilege user. So this CPOC creates G2E user. You provide the username, the password, and also the role. So you can create remotely with authentication. You can create an administrator user, and it's very critical because the port it's the normal port. So to access to this web service side, you just need to reach the port 443. Of course, that's patch. So like that, you can access to the subsystem with a high privilege user, and from this access, you can also use another little vulnerability when you can execute OS command if you are already high privilege user in SAP Java system. So what you can do is you can decrypt the SDI and then access to the Sandwich 7 like that. The second one, it's quite different. So it was from me. So it was on what we call the Willy. So this is the CA Enterprise Manager. Yeah. This one is very particular because this is not a big SAP system. This is a little application. There are no database with it. There are no SAP NetWeaver layer. This is kind of product that SAP can provide, but this is not what we call a SAP NetWeaver or big product system. This is little application or something like that. So for the Willy, the Willy purpose is to manage, to monitor other Java applications. You can create some beautiful graphic with the workload, etc. So you can access to this URL, so by default. And what we find on it, it's when you provide a login and password, a correct login and password, you receive like a cookie session, and the cookie session begins by RO. And maybe some of you spot the thing. This is the base 64 of Java deserialization. And so what we found a Java deserialization attack directly in the cookie session. And so if you provide a login and password with garbage, not exist login and password, and also you provide a cookie session. The cookie session is read before the login and the password. So you can execute OS command before the login. And ITsecurity worked very well on it. Second more. Yeah. All right. So on the top left, this is the on the bottom left. So this is the wheelie. As you can see, you need to provide a login and password. We have nothing. I already prepared a special cookie, so I cut the cookie with ITsecurity, and this is just a reverse shell to the attacker system. So on the bottom right, I will launch the listener on port 5.5, and then I just execute a script. You can just use try to log in with valid login and password, but I provide the malicious cookie and I get the command execution. Dispatch, sure. Maybe you can spot it. I was good this time. It's happened when the basis team sometimes has some complicated stuff with the wheelie. They decide to install with a very high privilege user to avoid any issue of the authorization. But yeah. So of course, wheelie you can access to the OS. You can access to the agent like that. Decrypt the agent. Access to the SAP stable. Another one is I put them. It's come from Yasuo. It's here. The component, the vulnerable component is the same as the first one when you can create an administrator user, but the exposition is quite less because this time you need to access to a particular services, a particular port. And it's sensitive because the first one, all these three vulnerabilities are the CVSS score to 10, but this one, it's just to say maybe the score is not everything, because this one is 10, but also you need to access a very particular port. So let me show you. So for the SAP Java NetWeaver, more or less, I will not go deeper how it's worked because we haven't today in front of us. There are what we call a cluster. So basically, the Java part work with a cluster, server 0, server 1, etc. And the cluster, so this is like Java process, need to communicate each other to say, hey, I do that, okay, I wait, or stuff like that. So this communication is done by a proprietary protocol from SAP. The name is Cluster Manager Communication. And so, okay, but what's part of fine is it's possible to reach these services remotely and to try to communicate with the Java process. And find that there are no authorization mechanisms, so it's possible to directly interact and do something with the Java process. You can do a lot of things, and one thing you can do particularly is to access to this method, the G2E SSO2 management. So it's good to know when you connect to the SAP system, you receive what we call the My SAP SSO2 cookie. So this is like an SSO cookie, a session cookie. So what you can do is to communicate with the target and say, hey, my system, my attacker system, it's now trusted to craft and to validate the SSO. So you communicate to the port. This is 50020 by default, and you do this malicious script. Then you just need to create to craft locally on your system with a valid signature a cookie session, and you can hijack any user on the system. And by default, the administrator user, the name is administrator. So you can not log in, but you can access to the system with the administrator. That's patch again. We did a lot of things in 23. And again, you access to the SAP product on top of the SAP Java retriever, and you access to the SDR, decrypt everything, and compromise everything. The last one, it's on the portal. I would like to show this one because this is only one product. We don't speak about the whole Java layer or the SAP retriever HANA. This is only on the portal, but the portal basically this is what you can find online when you access to when you access to an SAP system. Sometimes this is the portal, and this is the normal purpose for the portal to be accessed online. So this is what it looks like. Beautiful. So this is the SAP Enterprise portal. It's good to know also the portal is usually connected to a lot of SAP systems because it can grab a lot of information and data everywhere, and the user only access to this portal. So in this portal, we were interested on one particular thing. This is called the XSLT transformation. So just very quickly, what is an XSLT transformation? It's we provide an XML file, and there are an engine, XSLT engine, to transform this file to another file, HTML, PDF, whatever. And the configuration of this transformation is done by a style sheet file. So this is really the XSLT file. Okay. So we take a look in the portal where if this XSLT transformation exists, and if it exists, where it is, etc., etc. So we find quickly not very quickly, but we find the configuration when you have all the configuration about XSLT. So just an example for this one to understand. It means for this configuration means if you provide a file with the extension .archival, if you click on it, so behind this is an XML file, but if you click on it, it will try to transform this file using the archival.xsl, so the style sheet, and a beautiful HTML API. So this is a XSLT transformation. So we dig a little, and we find that we can modify the style sheet, and we can inject some Java code, and we can execute OS command. So basically, on the top, this is how it looks like, and we don't provide the payload, but this is where we find it's vulnerable to injection. It was corrected again, but the fact is to be able to modify this style sheet, you need to be SAP administrator. So okay, this is not so critical. But we find another way to, we find that any user can trigger this vulnerability. Let me show you why. In SAP portal, so there are some other transformation configuration. And for example, the KN file or KN use, it means if there are a file with the extension name KN use, if I click on it, it will use the KN file HTML show.xls style sheet. But this style sheet doesn't exist by default. So the configuration will not work. And what we discover is any user, so the user with only these two groups, this is a very the less group you can add to the user. Basically, any user can create this file, the style sheet file. Because you can, in the portal, you can also access to the file through the URL, and so even without role or stuff like that, you are able to upload files. So, okay, and the last thing is, this is the login, the portal login, and as you can see, there you have the possibility to register a user. This is not the default, but it's a bug. This is usual stuff, like, okay, you can register a user, and your user are only the guest privileges. But for us, this is enough. That's one. Not. Okay. So on the right, this is the portal. I try to log in with a user for my ITsecurity, why not? So it's not working because the user doesn't exist anymore, doesn't exist yet, sorry. And I try, you click on register, and you can define what password you want, you can process the email, etc., etc. It could be more complex like that, but it's all the same. So now, I can try to log into the portal, and it's work, but I can remember that, hey, you have no role, you have no right, you are only able to authenticate. So on the left, this is the attacker point of view. I launch the listener in port 154, and I use my script to try to log into the portal to upload the script, to upload the still sheet with the malicious injection, also to upload a file with the good extension and access to the file to trigger the vulnerability, and that's it. And it's okay, so it's quite fast, but the idea is you can create a user, and with a guest user you can execute command. And this is the same, like you access to the ADA, etc. Okay, in the part stay secure, what we just try to provide you all the patch, all the partial workaround is possible, and we do that component by component. So this is for the SAP server. On the top, this is a vulnerability when you can communicate with the SDA without any authentication, so it was patched. This is what we call the collateral finding. So we work on the SAP server, but we find also a few vulnerabilities directly in the hard retriever. So this is the critical finding on the Java. So the first one is the missing authentication to access to the web service. For this one, it's what we call a partial workaround because patch is mandatory. But also you can navigate to this path to access to the web service side and to enable the authentication. This is one box. And another possibility is to disable this web service side. I like this one. The second one is the cluster manager communication, when you can access to it remotely. Again, the patch is mandatory, but it's also possible to create a local firewall rules to avoid the communication to these services. Be careful if you do that. If you have an SAP NetWeaver Java with several systems, with several servers, then they must communicate to the cluster manager. This is about the wheeling. Again, high privilege, high CVSS, but for this one there are no workaround in the patch. And this is for the portal, and what I showed is the first one. This is a 9.9 because the privilege required is very low to trigger the vulnerability. And also for the portal, it's really partial workaround. By example, you can deactivate the configuration of the transformation where the still sheet does not exist. At least, if you do that, at least it's not possible to trigger the vulnerability with a low privilege user. You must have high privilege user to trigger it. So, the last part, what I would like to show is if you do SAP security system by system, only the production system, only my biggest business system or stuff like that, it will not work. It works if you take the security globally, because SAP systems are connected each other in one way. It could be from the SAP Solution Manager, it could be from SAP Security, it could be from SAP GSC or stuff like that. So it's important to take care of your big system, but it's also very important to take care of what we call the technical system. The system where the administrator use. Just imagine that you are in Windows environment and you don't take care of the IT. Like the Active Directory, no, there are no business to do. Yes? So, in this time, yet a library provides it. Okay, you need to take whole globally the SAP security. About the SAP Focus Yvan, I was very surprised of the level of the security of this component. When I attack directly, I find basically nothing very interesting. What I found is it's something related to the agent, and it was critical because the agent increased the attack surfaces a lot. This is why it is critical. So, thank you very much. Thank you to SAP again, because we worked a lot during this last couple of years. We worked a lot, and they patched a lot of our vulnerabilities. Thank you to Pablo and Niato, two of the vulnerabilities was from them. And I'm open for questions.